If you do not have belief, pressure will crush you.
Oftentimes, the pressure that we experience can be unfair. It's so important to show that doing hard things can be enjoyable.
To live this life we're living, there's a level of toughness you have to have. Literally just get up and do not quit.
Welcome back to another episode of the New Rose Podcast. It's your girl, Breezy, and I'm here with Mr. Adrian Crawford. How are you doing?
I am doing all right.
Real answers only.
Real answers only. I am doing okay. I say almost every week. It is euphoria and terror. That's kind of the two feelings
every
I have.
Other hour.
Yeah. But it's good, though. It's actually good. I think that I am, though there are things that are going on, I think at times that are difficult, I think I have just a greater belief. And I think it's all good. I think it's kind of fitting, even like what we're going to talk about today. So, so it's a good thing.
Yeah, I think that we can get right into it because I feel like it's such a relevant conversation for us right now. Mm-hmm. Today we're going to focus on Today we're going to focus on the devotion.
The devotion, there we go.
The devotion that is titled Pressure is a Privilege. Yeah. Personally, I often feel as though pressure is a punishment. Kidding. Mm-hmm. No. I'm really grateful to... Wait, what did you say?
No, it can feel like a punishment.
No, it can. So I think right now, obviously, like you mentioned, I think we've been very transparent about just the season of time that we find ourselves in and what our goals are and just the challenges that we've been experiencing just in pursuit of those. And one of those things is I think we often find ourselves feeling very excited, like you said, euphoric, but also very terrified and very uncertain of how it is that we're going to accomplish what we're really in pursuit of. Mm-hmm. And I think more often than not, we find ourselves in a place of insecurity. Yep. And one of the things that you write in the book is that when we experience pressure, it oftentimes reveals what is already there. Yep. And so if you are someone who experiences insecurities or is oftentimes afraid or anxious, a lot of those fears and insecurities get unearthed when you experience privilege. That too, I guess. But whenever you experience pressure. So I would just love, we're kind of just starting off in the deep end, but I would love for you to share a little bit more about just the pressures that you're experiencing right now and what you feel like that has revealed to you about you. Yeah.
I think the pressure right now is, heading into a world to where, like I said, we are in a race for the company Authentica. And so we're like just kind of, we're, probably maybe we've been working to get to this place of starting to really do pitches. We've done a few, but it's really starting to pick up. And so, but in the process of that, I've never done that. Almost everything that we've started and done has been just kind of our own like sweat, labor, own credit, just kind of went out there and did it. But now, you're trying to raise because it's a much bigger thing. And so I think what that has revealed, it's new territory. So I don't know what to expect. If I was doing it the same way, we were doing it the same way, you kind of know like what to expect. There may be some curveballs here and there, but for the most part, this is kind of how it goes. And so it's all new. Excuse me. So I think for me, what it's kind of revealed to me and what I think it's been built, is that the idea of like more and more belief is being like formed in me. Like, do you actually believe in what you are doing? When you think about and you study and read and about some of those who've done great things, one of the you see is that they just had this belief, even in the midst of the odds seeming like there was nothing that was there. And so it was this constant of like, they just kept believing though. And some of it was like delusion. But I think I think anybody to do anything great, there is a level of you have to be delusional to actually think you can do something that's not been done before. And I think as we're going forward to introduce it to a new category, human architecture, something that's been there for a long time, the idea of leadership development, personal development has kind of been the way we've developed humans has been the same for the last 60 years in corporate America and other places. And we actually believe there's a different way and a better way coming into this new era. And so I think that's where you're going in there. So it's a little bit delusional. You're going against certain things that have been established. Concrete, and people just are used to it. So you're having to recondition people's mind. You're having to get the right people to buy into what you're actually doing. You got to be able to sell people something that they don't know, or they want to put you in a category. And so what I think it's led to me is really it's pushed me. Do I believe or do I not believe? And I realize so many times it's so easy for me to be moved off of my belief because of circumstances. And I think that's what's been getting developed at a greater level within me right now.
So do you think that something that is necessary to have a mindset of viewing pressure as a privilege is belief?
I do, because I think that if you do not have belief, pressure will crush you, because I think pressure is something that is a part of the journey, but you have to have something that withstands. You think about it, if you're lifting, if you're like doing a bench press or something like that, the pressure of that bar coming down, right? Then you have to do what? You have to use your force to push it back up. So you have to have something to actually push pressure back instead of letting pressure come down and crush you. The resistance of pressure, just like bench press, it actually grows you. But what we do is we have to have things that are within us to actually help us to be able to develop in pressure. Because just because you go through something does not make you better. You could go through stuff and it can actually crush you if you do not have the right tools and if you're not willing to push forward. And I think belief is actually one of those things.
What type of belief and belief in what do you think is the most important?
I think first of all, I think there's got to be a belief in first, like the actual, like your like personal, like I think like meaning and calling. I think like, is there a belief like in that? Is there a belief in the vision that you feel like that you set out for, that you feel like has been given to you? Is there a belief in like your skill set? Is there a belief in your team? Is there a belief that like, yeah, the market needs this, even though the market may not know they need this? Do you believe that? I think about Steve Jobs and constantly talked about that. It's like, I don't get, he's like, I didn't give people what they wanted. You know what I'm saying? I gave them what they needed. You know what I'm saying? You talk about the personal computer. That wasn't a thing, but he was willing to give people something that they needed. And then, he just kept building and revolutionized everything. We didn't know we needed a phone with our music and everything, our whole world in it. We didn't know we needed that, but he knew where the world was going, and so he's willing to give that. So I think that you have to have that, this belief in what you feel like you can do. And I also think a belief in like, you have to be delusional, think, no, I'm good enough to actually go pull that off. Because I think that's what it is. When you think about like great people throughout, I think about athletes a lot. Some of the best athletes I've ever been around are delusional. Like they're literally delusional. Think how good they are. Kobe, for example. Kobe was delusional. I had the privilege of, we came out the same high school class. I mean, he legit thought he was the best player like in the planet as a 17-year-old. I mean, it didn't matter who he played against. It didn't matter if it was pros or not. He stepped on the floor like he was the absolute best. And we think, Kobe is arrogant. And I'm like, there was arrogance there, but the other part of him, he was like delusional. But also, here's the thing about the delusion. He put in the work. He had the skill set, he had the build, and he put in the actual work. I mean, he was psychotic about his work. And so for that all led to him being able to be that level of delusional. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's what people have to have. If you've that level of like, I actually think I can pull this off.
Mm-hmm. Why do you think that that's so transformative?
Because I think that belief is attractive. I think belief attracts people. I think that idea, because a lot of times people they don't have that. They aren't willing to go through the pressure to develop that belief. Like to get that belief, you got to have failures. Going back to Kobe, it was his rookie year. It was against the Utah Jazz, and they put him in the game, and they're playing. And his last like 2 or 3 shots, he shot at air balls. Like he shot like complete air balls. And everybody's like, oh, the arrogant, young, da-da-da, and all this stuff like that. But when you actually listen to him talk about that, he says, man, he got back off the plane. He went right to the gym or park and started shooting. He's like, I knew why I missed those shots. Like he didn't say like, I should never have shot those shots. He literally like, I knew why I missed those shots. The season went long. I didn't have my legs. I got to get stronger going to year. And so what happens, you hear that, and you're like, this kid is like, he's 18 years old. You're like, that is crazy to say that. Most of us like would have been like, like people would have had to check in on us, do like a wellness check, because you shoot air balls in national TV as a rookie. And they already think you're arrogant. You're like, man, I'm terrible. He could have went sideways there. Mm-hmm. But he let that teach him. And I think that when people see that, it just attracts, because what you're giving people something they desire. You're giving something they hope, and people will try to they want to like grab a hold of those coattails, because they're like, man, I can't believe like that, but I'm willing to follow somebody like that. Mm-hmm. And so I think that that's where pressure has to develop that in you. I believe that's the only way you get belief, is by feeling the pressure, feeling desperation, feeling like I may not make it. Because if you don't have that, then I think when it's all said and done, you won't have the internal fortitude and the skills and the ability to do the stuff you need to when your opportunity comes.
Yeah, absolutely. There's something that we recently started talking about a little bit more as we've been through this process for, I mean, we started in November of last year, really. And it has been really challenging. And I think recently we started talking more about, like, if we're going to do this, are we going to have fun doing it?
Yeah.
Like, are we going to decide to have a good time? And it kind of led me to think a little bit more about how I think the next generation, it's so important to show that doing hard things can be enjoyable.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean it's not going to be hard, but you can do hard things and also have fun doing it.
Yep.
And I think that the reason why it's so important for the younger generation to see that is because we lack so much hope in the future right now. And I think as we are talking about belief, like, what we're really seeing is that when someone has belief in themselves, they have hope for the future. Like, they have hope that they can create something new, something meaningful.
Yep.
And I think that's why it's so contagious, especially because right now, that's not really what we're seeing. That's not really what we're experiencing.
Yep.
Would you share a little bit more on how pressure develops a person to be one of one, to discover their magnum opus?
Yeah, because I think what pressure does is that we used to say growing up, pressure busts pipes or it makes diamonds. And so the idea that what pressure does, many times it removes the stuff that's not of you. You know what I'm saying? It actually reveals what's in there. And sometimes it reveals bad stuff. Sometimes it reveals fear. Sometimes it reveals insecurity. Sometimes it reveals shame. And what you can't do when it does reveal that is then go into a place of like, well, see, I told you. No, it's just the impurities that are there, that they're getting out. But what else is there? That if you're able to stick with it, the other good stuff comes out. You know what I'm saying? Now all of a sudden there's faith that's in there. There's a grit and a toughness that's there. There may be ingenuity that's there as you go through that. So you just have to go through that process to get to those things. And I think that, a lot of people don't want to go through that because, again, we live in a very instant world. We live in stuff we get really quick. And a lot of people just haven't had to face that resistance. And I think that that's been, unfortunately, with your generation. I think my generation above me, didn't do a great job of letting you all feel the weight of certain things, because I think the weight of things, the weight of failure, the idea of when I was in the third grade and playing in a championship game, there was no like, oh, we all got like an award or whatever. It's like, no, it's a championship game. You got beat and that was it. And he's like, other team, you had to sit there and watch the other teams, the third graders, hold up their trophies, and we just freaking went home. You know what I mean? And you know what? That sucked. But you know what it did? It did something, within me. I'll give you a quick story. My father, it was my 9th grade year, and we had a really good basketball team. And there was some dispute with my father and the head coach there, because my father didn't hire him for a job because he's a head basketball coach at the University of Akron. Fast forward from there. So instead of his frustration, he wanted to get back at my dad. I was slated to like play on varsity, do all that. He like literally the list came out. He put me on the freshman team. And all of it was like a shot at my father. So I'm like caught in the crosshairs of this, and it was crazy. But my father did something. Even though it was like between him and my dad, my father literally said, you have a choice. Either you cannot play this year, or you can make it like undeniable of why you should be there. And so literally I was in freshman practice for 2 days, went to JV, started on JV, and we were really good. And then I played varsity as well. My point is, I appreciate that about my dad, was that he could have made an excuse. No, you definitely need to quit. Don't play. He gave me the choice. And in that choice, I had to figure it out. I had to make it, even though it was unfair, I had to be undeniably better than everybody else. And so I became that in that moment, and I think that's kind of what's helped me. It taught me how to build and work through certain things.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think that oftentimes the pressure that we experience can be unfair.
Yeah.
So how do you develop a mindset that even views unfair pressure as a privilege? That's really hard.
Yeah, because I think, it's true. Because a lot of things in life are like, they're unfair. You think about, like some of us, like we hit the lottery where we were born. Like I said, as a black man, I hit the lottery in America. I'm a black man in America. I had both my parents. My dad was like a college basketball coach. We were middle class. Like, all my friends didn't have a father. that a lot of my black friends didn't have fathers. So it was kind of one of those things to where I hit the lottery. Some of the stuff they experienced wasn't fair. Some of the stuff I experienced wasn't fair. I had a mother in her 30s have a disease that ultimately ended up killing her with lupus. So like we all have things that are not fair. The key is that what do you do with that? That means and how you actually see it as a privilege is you have to own it. You have to deal with the pain of it. It's okay to say, yeah, this sucks. It's okay to agree. Why am I in this situation? Why do I have to do that? But then what you have to do is once you feel that pain, because what we'll try to do is like, nah, just fake, believe this doesn't exist. I'm like, no, it exists. You have to own its existence, but then you have to say, okay, I'm willing to press past that. I'm willing. And a lot of times pressing past it, it's just every single day getting up and putting your 2 feet to the ground. That's it. Just don't quit. Like sometimes we make it to be, I got to have this 10-year plan. No, literally just get up and do not quit. There's been so many days that's happened where it's like, okay, I do not want to get out of this bed. I don't want this to keep going. And it's just like, no, just get up and keep moving. And when you do that, it just keeps building. Like, listen, feeling pressure is a gift. I mean, I was talking to somebody the other day, a college basketball coach. And one of the things that we talked about was that, he's had a lot of success. And we both were going back and forth saying, man, the reason why is because when you're working a job and you should have a level of, like, this is the thing, you should have a level of fear. There are things I think today that people don't have. Like, you should have a healthy fear. You should have a healthy fear you may get fired. You should have a healthy fear that you need to produce. You should have a healthy fear because what that does, that keeps you motivated and going. I have a healthy fear that like we're building this out, we have a runway. So in having that runway, there's a constant like underneath line, even though there's an underneath like little bit of this like kind of like imagine like this buzz like this in the background you barely hear, but it's just like of anxiety of like, man, what if? What if we don't raise another dime? What if whatever?
Yeah.
But you know what that does? It's like, no, I have no other choice. The pressure of, man, there are people who I have to make sure are taken care of. That keeps me moving. It makes me better. It gets me to not think so much about myself. And I think that we have tried to build our worlds where we do not feel this stuff. And I actually think if you want to do anything and become a one-on-one, you have to be willing to put yourself in pressure situation and you have to feel that crushing weight. Mm-hmm. That crushing weight will develop you. But a lot of times people just don't want that. And what they think is that, oh, if it's supposed to, it's just not fair or it should just be this way. No, this is just what it is. Yeah. And I think once you accept that, I think you can move and make something happen.
Yeah. Well, I'm interested to hear how you mentioned that right now, when you think about the pressures you're experiencing, that it's like, I don't have a choice. There's not another option. Mm-hmm. You really do.
Yeah.
You could quit. There's a lot of things you could do to make money and like make sure that you're good. Yep. There's even a lot of things you could do to, keep things going the way that they've been going, which has been very well for a long time.
Yep.
So you do have a choice.
Yep.
How do you make sure that you close the door so that you are embracing the pressure that you're supposed to embrace and pursue right now?
Yeah, I will tell you this. I believe that this is where my faith comes in. I believe actually God closes the door for me. I think that, I'll be honest with you, I think if I tried to go back to the old way, he wouldn't let it work. And that's kind of how my life's been. When it's time for me to go another place, he literally shuts the door and I'll try to walk back into the other door and that door's locked. You know what I'm saying? And it's a fool's errand. And so now I've just gotten old enough to realize, all right, I'm just not going to turn around walking that door, because it's this new time. And I also think too, I can't talk about, hey, become one of one, write new rules, do that if I'm not willing to live that out. I'm only willing to live that out to certain levels. So I really don't feel like I have an option or a choice, and I think that's what you have to. I think if you want to do something of meaning, there comes a point in time, man, listen, I'm not saying you should have options and, backup plans, that's whatever. But I also think at some point in time, you have to burn the boats and you have to just say, okay, like this is it. And I'm going to go out this way. Growing up, like one of my favorite movies was this movie called like Young Guns, right? It's a Young Guns 2. So I don't
know nothing about that. Yeah.
I don't know nothing about that. But anyway, great movie. But anyway, it was about, it's a fictional story, but there's some real characters and, some based on some real characters. One of them was Billy the Kid. And one of the things about Billy the Kid was the fact that, man, it was like, they have a song in there called it's called Going Out. It's called Blaze of Glory by Bon Jovi, and it's like one of my favorite songs because the whole thing is like, if I'm gonna go out, I'm going out in the blaze of glory. I'm going out just this way. I'm going out like the way I want to go out, not on some like I was retreating. I'm going out this way, and I think that it always resonated with me because here's the truth about it. I always was such a shy kid. I was always a fearful kid, and there was something about that in that movie that there was something that would tap in because I really wanted that. And I think as I've gotten older, it's starting to play out even more.
Yeah. Well, I think in terms of pressure, you started to talk a little bit about how a lot of the pressure that you experience right now, even though there are external things, oftentimes the pressure is truly internal.
Yeah.
It has a lot to do with the war within your mind, the war within like your heart and your emotionality, questions for like, why am I even here? Do I even matter? And I think that that's where most people find themselves when they're in positions of pressure is oftentimes it really is internal and internal battle and a mental game. Can you share a little bit more about just how do you navigate that when you're experiencing, it's like, it's so much uncertainty and you're also feeling like, I don't even know if I can do this to the point where it's like, I don't even know if my life matters.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the first thing is this. I think that you have to have a few things in place. I tell people before you go into a storm, like you have to have things that anchor you. I think the first thing is that in the midst of a storm, I do not start to form my worldview of society and the world in my life. I try very hard not to. But those thoughts do come though. Like if like, man, like you said, my life's not worth it. Why am I doing this? I'm going to fail anyway. The world's burning, the whole deal. Right. And I try very hard in those moments to really like say, no, before this happened, what was the last thing? And so me, again, going back to my faith, the thing I'll say is like, what was the last thing God told me? And what I always tell people, if he hadn't said anything else to me, then I just keep going. And so that kind of has helped me. The second thing, you have to have friends around you who will literally not let you off the hook, that will tell you truth in the midst of that. And so I have friends that I'm very fortunate for. I have people like yourself and others saying, nope, this is where we're at. This is what the last thing said. You keep going. We keep going. I think that's important. And I think those kind of help you in that. I think a practical thing, I think it's, you have to take your thoughts really captive, and what I mean is that like when you let those thoughts just play in this loop in your brain, it creates its own world. You're constantly remaking these negative things, like you're pulling the future forward in this negative way. And so I think that's why a lot of times when you're thinking these thoughts, like, no, you have to like start to rethink. And what I mean by rethink, sometimes you try to fight thoughts with thoughts. You can't do that. You have to literally, sometimes I tell people, like, you have to just you have to literally talk out loud. When you start feeling that thing, like, man, I think my life's not worth it. You need to literally be like, nope, it is. Like it sounds crazy, but it's like it literally starts to change. And so what you meditate on, you will become. And so I think that's really important that you actually have to start speaking those things. So what people want is they want it to go away without any hard work. Like that's never going to happen. If you actually want to get through those hard, difficult times, you have to actually do work in there. Whether if that's you going to therapy, if that's you meditation, mindfulness, if that's prayer, if that's whatever it is, you have to put in work to do that. It's not just going to magically happen. And I think that's where we all wrestle with, is that I think people don't want to put in that work. And so that goes back to the idea of resilience, the pressure. Like, do we have the toughness to do that? Like, this is what we have to understand. To live this life we're living, there's a level of toughness you have to have. And what I mean by toughness, I am not talking about like I'm ready to fight everybody. I'm talking about a grit that you're willing not to quit. And so that has to be the case. And I think right now, especially you look at our world right now, there's so much, there's such hopelessness in our society. You have to have a grit and toughness. And I think that, and people say, well, how do you get that? It's literally every day saying, nope, I'm going to get up. And if I accomplish one thing today, then I'm going to get it done. Two things, I'm going to get it done. But you got to start building that muscle. And it just takes a lot to do that.
I retook 7 frequencies of communication yesterday, which is an assessment. And I took it because I couldn't find my original report. And one of the questions was, I think people are soft. So naturally, I was like, I wish that there was a 20 on here. I could only go as high as 5 just because that's like my natural inclination. I say that because I was laughing whenever I was, taking the assessment. And there is also a lot of wisdom though in knowing I guess what pressures you're willing to experience, or not that you're willing to experience, but what pressures are the right ones. Because there's also people, I think it's very foolish to just be willing to go through hard things because it kind of brings this badge of honor.
Yeah.
So would you be willing to share more just on how do you know for certain that you're experiencing the right pressure?
Yeah, I think that you don't fully know. Like, I don't think there's 100% this is it. I think what you have to look at is, again, I always say this, you have to see what's in your hands, being faithful to what's in front of you. I think you have to start, depending on, man, what are certain maybe like signs that you see, what something fits your skill set.
Signs.
I know, right? Is this something that fits your skill set or your ability, opportunities that come your way? And I think you just have to move down that road, but it's never like a guarantee. And I think a lot of times we want that. Like, we want the guarantee. I was meeting with somebody this morning, and that was their whole thing. It was like, how do you know, like, if you do this, and that they were talking about wanting to do something great, but they're like, but how do I know if, like,
you don't?
Yeah, how do I know if I go down this road and this is what I'm doing? Like, yeah, you don't. You go, and it's one of those things where, and here's what I tell people: if you start going down a road long enough, if you're good enough, you'll make it great. You'll figure it out, and I think that you do have to go down these roads. And I also think too, some people, they just, like, there's the other thing that's false. I think Seth Godin wrote a book a while back called The Dip. And what The Dip was about was that he talks about, man, he used the quote, I think it was Vince Lombardi said that, like, quitters never win. And he said that's the stupidest thing, because he's like, winners quit stuff all the time. Stuff they're not good at. And he calls it the dip, to where you're going here, and he's like, you hit this point, right? So think about if you're playing golf or something, right? I used to play golf, and it got to a point to where what made me stop playing golf was that as I was playing, Jalen was like, at the time 3 or something like that. I knew for me to get better at golf, how much time I was going to have to devote to it, and it wasn't worth it for me. And so that was a dip. I'm like, nope, I'm good. So I didn't do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and you don't like to do things that you don't feel good at, so you just stopped playing golf altogether.
Yeah, I'm good. Because I was just going to be too frustrated, because I'm like too competitive. I'm like, no, I'm good. So, and it's like taking hours out my day to, like, on Saturday. So I was like, I'm not doing that. But there's also stuff that I've done that I'm like, oh no, this was worth it to me to climb through it. Like, communicating. Like, for example, like, I've preached thousands of sermons. That's why now I can probably put one together in like 20 minutes. It's because I had to go through like the 30 hours, like just fighting for my life, like not knowing, God, are you going to say anything to me? Do I even know what I'm saying? Blah, blah, blah. And dude, it was like, it was freaking awful. It felt awful. It was like, wasn't like those moments where I'm like, oh man, this felt incredible. It was great. No, like a lot of it was just like, dude, this is terrible, because I'm so nervous. I'm going to go in front of people, communicate to them. I don't even know, like, do I have anything? And it's like, but what that built inside of me, but I just kept moving forward, and it developed a resilience in me, and it developed skill sets in me to now. It's like, I know I've done it enough to know this. When I sit down, I truly believe God will speak to me, and I will actually know what to say, because he's literally done it all the time. But it took me a long time. And this is what I feel like it was. He took me a long time for him to actually, he was trying to get me to, like, do you actually trust me? I think the same thing's happening right now. The same thing's happening right now when it comes to what we're trying to do, because he's always showed up. He's always done these things. I mean, even right now, the first person who actually, who gave us our seed fund to what we're doing right now. I mean, like, if you think about it, I was thinking about this today. I was like, man, if this person doesn't do that, like, right near the end of the year, like, I'm like, yo, I don't know what we would have done. Like, you know what I'm saying? And that's why, like, that's a real thing.
I just know that I know nothing is going to happen until the very last second.
Yes. It's just
it's just a pattern at this point.
It is. And you're like, oh man, it's like the last thing. You're like, why? No, can we just get this, like, can we get it like 5 days ahead? Nope. We got to run up to the end of the day.
Because we would believe that it was completely us. So that at this point, we're in a faith conversation right now. Yeah. But, if it were to happen when we wanted it to happen, we would 100% believe that it was all us.
Yeah. And again, and speaking to that on the faith side of it, I think people talk about this all the time. I mean, I don't think people talk about it enough. Absolutely. Like, God puts you in pressure situations. Yeah. I mean, like, the apostle, I think it was either Peter talks about that, where he talks about your faith is being refined like gold. It's like, you know what that means? To refine gold is being put in a fire. Like, that's pressure. And I think that's what you have to understand. Like, that's how things are built. There's nothing in this world that has been formed of value that did not have pressure. There's nothing formed of value that there was a pressure moment to actually develop that.
That's really good, because in Magnum Opus, you talk so much about how like you are the work of art.
Yep.
You are the Magnum Opus, and the work is discovering more of your one-of-one and who you were created to be. And so it's definitely very interesting to put it in the perspective of like you are the art piece, you are the gold.
Yep.
And in order to be refined and become something that is at its purest form and its most valuable, you have to experience fire and pressure.
Yep. And I think what most people want, they want to be counterfeit. Counterfeit things don't take that much. Counterfeit things don't cost as much. Counterfeit things don't doesn't have to have that much pressure to actually do it. But if you actually want to be one of one, I think that's why we have a world right now full of a lot of counterfeit people, because I think what they wanted to do is a shortcut. They want the shortcut of greatness. They want the give me the 8-week course, and that 8-week course is going to help me do this thing right here. Let me watch this couple of YouTube videos that's going to do this. Like, no, a lot of times it's just built over a lifetime. You know, it's just stuff that's just built over a lifetime. There's wisdom that's built over a lifetime. There's stuff that's there, and I think we're moving into an era in the society and world that we left that platform kind of, I think, very cosmetic, very surface level society, that I think we're moving into a world of wisdom. And wisdom only happens through time and things that have actually been pressure tested. And I think that's what's going to be needed in the world, because see, you can live in a cosmetic world when there's no resistance and the world's fine. When the world is upside down, it needs wisdom. People aren't just going to buy into because they know it doesn't work. They'll try it when it's like, oh, I can try this here. But when you're like, dude, no, I'm coming up to my last dollar. Man, feel like I'm at the end of my life and I need somebody that's going to help me and somebody to give me wisdom there. That's what's going to happen. I think you're going to start to see emerging in society people that for years have just been doing very faithful work. And it's going to feel like they just came on the scene, but they've been doing it behind closed doors for a very long time, because I think what they're going to be able to bring wisdom actually to the world today, because that's what's needed. There needs to be wisdom in the world. There needs to be more creativity in the world. There needs to be more solutions in the world, because we're just replicating stuff, like, you know, and I think that's what this has to happen right now. Yeah.
I like what you said about counterfeit. Counterfeits get to experience the visibility and the, what would be the word? Like,
I mean, if you rock it,
like the wave, like, so, you know, you're like what you're saying, like fake Jordans.
Yeah.
It's you get to experience the wave of, you know, the cult following that is like the shoe of Jordans, but it's not real.
That's what I'm saying. You look at those Jordans and you're like, oh man, from a distance, it looks like Jordan, until you get up there. You know what I'm saying? It ain't the jump, man. My man Michael Jordan hitting a split or something. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like you're like, nah, you're like that ain't Mike right there. You know what I'm saying? That ain't Mike. And so, like, but from a distance, it looks fine. And I think in the world you can do that. But what happens? I tell you what, when you got like fake Jordans on, and you actually say you put them Jordans on, and you go play on the basketball floor. Watch how quick those Jordans rip and stuff like that. See, you can live counterfeit when there's no pressure, there's no resistance. But when there is resistance, it separates the real and the fake. And I think that is where we're living into that right now. And you're going to just start to see, that's why I think you're seeing more and more people in society being exposed for certain things, because I think pressure is just actually revealing that. And you're going to see it more and more, because people are going to try to keep their platform and their image when it's dying, because people don't want that anymore. I think that's why you see in marketing and brands and whatever, they're doing way more smaller curated things. Why? That's because I think people want that. They want genuine. They want something, when we say authentic, they want something that's real. And I think that's a lot of the world that we're heading into. But you don't get that unless you've been willing to be tested in fire and go through pressure. Yeah.
Can you share a little bit more about the opening story?
Yeah. So I want to say it's my junior year of high school. I had been in a really bad shooting slump. Our team had been on a losing streak. And so we were playing another rival. And as we're getting ready to play this team, we're in the middle of like, it was like the day we did shoot around. So, you know, shoot before like the game or whatever. And my coach, he's sitting there kind of, he's giving us trying to motivate us, do this. And just in all of my like probably 16-year-old like teenage bravado, I was like, yo, just give me the ball tomorrow and just watch what I do. Like, I literally just like blurted it out.
Yeah, what a bold thing to say. Dude, when every time you'd gotten the ball before
I was in a slump. It was crazy. And so the opening game, so the tip off happens to get it. The ball gets tipped and it gets to me, and I don't know what happened, but normally, you know, you're first like you're out there trying to pass the ball, get a good shot. I literally got it, dribbled up, shot the ball from like 26 feet. I mean, I was like 8 feet behind the 3-point line, and it goes in. And the entire time, I'm like talking to my high school coach the entire time. I'm like, I just kept saying, I told you, just give me the ball. Watch me cook. Give me the ball. And it was like, I don't know what got into me, but it was like after a while, it became a thing where they just were. And I mean, but it was like in that moment, it was like, I don't know what it was, but something I think I had to what I had to do is put pressure on myself to where, I'm just going to be embarrassed. Mm-hmm. So it's like, I don't want to keep playing like this. So, hey, what's the worst thing? I just be embarrassed more, but I don't want to be embarrassed. And so it just kind of was birthed from there. And I think what I realized in that moment was how pressure developed something within me in that moment.
Yeah. I think one of the ways that I experience pressure is when people have expectations of me.
Yeah.
And it reminds me of one of my favorite TV shows, The Bear. And whenever Carmi comes in and he essentially starts having these expectations and these standards of excellence for people who have never experienced that kind of pressure before. Mm-hmm. And by experiencing that kind of pressure, even though it obviously brings up so much conflict, so much conflict. I watch the show and I feel like I'm at home.
Oh, you can be like, F you, cousin.
Yes, I love it. Yeah. Like, it's invigorating to me, unfortunately, but that being said, like, they experience the pressure of somebody having expectations and a standard of them that seems so far from what they could ever fully meet. And it creates so much fear and insecurity and anxiety in everyone. But as the show continues, you see everyone start to find a sense of purpose. Like, they discover their place. And truthfully, all of the characters begin to discover their one of one.
Yes.
And my favorite episode is the Unreasonable Hospitality one, whenever
Forks.
Cousin, Forks. I have it tattooed.
Yeah.
But it's my favorite one because Cousin's the last one and he's having this conversation. I think it's with Carmi when he's saying it seems like everybody's found their place. And he's the last person who still is just sitting there experiencing the pressure of what they need to become and not yet meeting it. And the episode of Forks really just does the play of him really beginning to discover that. And oftentimes, I think what makes me really sad about the world right now is when people have expectations and a standard of us, we view it as toxic.
Yes. I mean, because even in that episode, and I would encourage anybody to go watch that episode, is that it was his rebellion because Carmi's sitting him there and all he was cleaning forks. You know, you think you're going to go for a week and he wanted to, by the end of it, once he settled in and said, I don't care. I'm just going to be here and I'm going to show up every day. He fought it. He said that even if it was the wrong motivation, if it was just like, you know what, it is to show his cousin that he can do it. He kept it. And then once he settled and locked in, he just got better to a point that when he was able to go out there, you know, he was able to be a server and do all the stuff there at this Michelin star restaurant. And I think it's such a great episode because it's one of the shortest ones, but it makes it great because you just saw someone, like you said, find their place, but he found his place under pressure. Here's the thing. I actually think because we have pushed so much away from authority, I believe authority puts pressure on us. See, authority is not a bad thing. Now, toxic authority, whatever, that's bad. But it's not a bad thing because you know what? When you have authority, you have accountability. Accountability puts pressure. No, you have to get this done. And if you don't get this done, there are consequences. That should push you. And I think nowadays we have just said, like, that's bad. It's not bad. It should be something that it motivates and fuels you to go forward. And I think because we have lived in trying to just deny any negative emotion, then we now don't know how to deal at all with any type of negative emotion. And so what you have to do to justify that, you have to say it's toxic versus saying, no, it's just life. And actually feeling negative emotions are not a bad thing. It's just when you live in negative emotions, feeling negative emotions, it's revealing something. It's revealing something about your soul. I tell you, all emotions reveal something about some part of your soul. You know, either when it's a happy emotion, you know, it's joy, whatever, or even when it's sadness or shame, it's just the shame and sadness is showing that unhealthy part of your soul, and the happiness and whatever is showing a good part of your soul. And so I think it reveals stuff, but I think we got to be okay with that. And that's one of the things that I hope more than anything else is because what I want to be able to say is like, as somebody who has gone through all this stuff, you know, with stuff we built, but also I did it when I was, you know, severely depressed. You know, I had all the pressure of being a husband and a father, building stuff, and I was severely depressed, did not want to live. And and literally the only thing that kept me alive some seasons was like, no, it was like my wife and kids. I was like, I cannot, I don't want to, I would envision their face if I did something. And I was like, I do not want that. That's unfair to them. That's the only thing. It was not like, oh, I just want to please God. It wasn't. It was just that. But that's all that's all I could hang on to. But I had to go through it. And I just, and you know what? And I wish it would have alleviated. I wish even now, oh man, I kind of struggle with it. No, I do. But again, it's something that has made me, I literally would not be the man or be able to do what I do. Like this book or the stuff that we're building would not exist if I did not struggle with depression, would not exist, because what I've had to do is go through a process to dig deeper in my own soul, to understand this stuff, to dig out what was there, to actually go on that journey myself, to actually help other people go on their journey as well. So when I talk about this stuff, it's actually giving them breadcrumbs and wisdom of actually a journey I've went on. Yeah. And so some of you are denying your negative emotions and things you're going through and you're not liking that thing. Like I always say, in your greatest place is pain, you may find your greatest sense of purpose, because in those places, it actually is who you are. All those negative things bad moments we see with certain people in life, we see in movies or whatever, you're like, man, that's what kind of made them. And they were willing to see and reframe that. And so again, that's just part of the process.
Yeah. And I think what you're saying too is like, what made them was their response to it.
That's it. Yeah.
And so it's not just that depression is what created this, art that is Magnum Opus, or the art that is the cultures that you've created and the worlds that you've created, but it's that you've chosen to be determined and you've chosen to specifically fight for belief and fight for hope in the future.
Yep. No, it is. And I think you said it spot on. It is your response. It's like, we're not always able to, like, in a lot of things, determine what cards were dealt. We are with how we respond to those cards. And and you have a hand, you play the hand that you get. And sometimes that hand, you may play it, you may have to play that. It's not going to be where you have the greatest hand ever, but you just start playing it just very slow. And eventually over time, you just keep building a better and better hand. But you do have to respond. And there's no way around. This is the thing. There's no way around pressure and pain in order to become who you need to be. In order to become one of one, it's like literally, it is a essential. You cannot become one of one unless you are willing to go through just the crucible of the pressure and the pain it takes to mold and shape you to be who you've been created and designed to be.
I have more questions, but I just feel like that's the perfect wrap up.
There it is.
I guess I want to say before we fully close is I've said this, I think, so many different episodes since we started focusing on Magnum Opus. Magnum Opus in itself, I truly believe is such a work of art. And I think for anybody listening to this episode, as we've done this series on Magnum Opus and talking about the different devotions and the different sections, I don't even believe that we fully tapped into all of the content. This is really just a sneak peek into what is really in this book. Yeah. And so we highly recommend that you check it out. I truly believe there are so many things that we do, and almost none of them have we ever promoted on this podcast. And I pushed this decision in doing this here because I really believe that reading this has the opportunity to transform your internal world and transform your life. So if you're listening, check out Magnum Opus.
There it is. Check out
tell your friends.
Absolutely. Listen, my biggest thing with this and with this book is that I've come to learn in life that I just want to be obedient to what I'm supposed to do. Now, whatever happens, like with the book. If it's like, man, it gets in the hands of hundreds of thousands, it gets in the hands of 100 people. What I believe is that it'll get in the hands of the right people to actually help them. And that's kind of how this whole thing is supposed to be. I just think that I've kind of gotten to a place in my life. It's not so much about how, doing all these things to get it out there. It's just like, no, I just think if you just create great work of art, you build that. Some of it goes somewhere, some of it doesn't. I mean, at the end of the day, but I feel that's one thing I can say. It's like an artist who creates an album, right? Like out in here, like Jack Harlow. People are like giving Jack Harlow a hard time about his R&B album. The thing I can appreciate about Jack Harlow is this. He could have just been safe and just keep doing F-boy rap his whole life.
Oh, for
you know what I'm
sure.
saying? And just been more popular. But he was like, no, I want to try something different. And I'm like, I respect that.
And he's done that multiple times.
Yeah,
and there's
yeah.
been times where it has failed.
Yes. And it's just like, and I respect that because what he cares about is like, no, I created the art I wanted. And I think that's the freedom. And that's the thing for me. Like, I created what I wanted and I'm like, oh no, I feel great about it. So whatever happens with it, happens with it. But it's not like I could have done, or, yeah, you could have promoted it more. You could have done this maybe, but I don't really care. I wanted to produce what I wanted to produce and put it in the hands of people I want to put it in the hands of, and whoever it can help, it can help. So I would encourage you, if you feel like these podcasts, this series has helped you, man, go get the book. There's so much more that's in there. And so until next time, keep writing new rules.
Boom.